Shalom. First and foremost, call halal yamla, Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem Harachakwadash. Double honors to the apostles, the bishops, and the elders of Great Millstone that I learned this truth from, and also peace and salutations to the hopeful elect of the nation of Israel, scattered throughout the four corners of the earth. Pretty much in this video, I want to say a few words to the Spirit concerning this whole, situation this past weekend. All right, where you had another, alleged attempt, assassination attempt on Nero 47 Trump. Okay, this past weekend. All right, and pretty much, when you go into, the details of the situation. All right, supposedly this guy, what's his name? Cole Thomas Allen. All right, this guy. All right, as you can see, this is a picture of him being pinned down after he was, supposedly arrested. Because, supposedly, when you go into, different articles and different, outlets where you can find, details on the so-called situation, right? Supposedly, this guy, all right, who you see in the picture pinned down, supposedly he entered into this ballroom, this hotel, all right, where Trump and his administration was having this correspondence dinner, right? And supposedly this guy right here that's pinned down, entered into the hotel, all right, and entered on the level of the other ballroom where the dinner was being held, okay, and ran past security, right, armed to the teeth with handgun, shotgun, knives, and whatnot. It supposedly shot at some of the security guards and FBI agents or whatnot. All right, and allegedly they shot back at him, but somehow, some way, none of the bullets, shot this guy. All right, and either injured him or unalived him. But yet somehow, some way, they were able to capture this guy, put him in handcuffs, get him on the ground, and arrest him. All right, which when you go into it, the whole entire thing is just another event, fishy event by the left hand, by Esau Edom. All right, and as you can see from the guy's alleged mugshot. All right, you already know what it is. Okay, we can already see where Esau Edom is going to take this. All right, because mind you, what's happening, or rather, shall I say, one of the other things that's happening in these latter days is, of course, the wicked is being revealed. Okay, Esau Edom, and Esau is being caught. He's being found out, and it's a shameful spewing all over his glory. All right, and as we've been seeing, all right, over these years and whatnot, okay, especially over this year, 2026 in particular. Now, as the Edomites, starting with their top elite banking families, the small hats, right, even down to the certain of the average everyday Edomite here in America, as the average as the Edomite, okay, is feeling the the scrutiny upon him more and more, okay, as the whole world is waking up to the BS of Esau Edom and waking up to the fact that the Edomite, starting with the small hats and the top banking families of Esau Edom, are the main problem on earth. Okay, and they're the root cause of all the world's problems. Now we see, with these so-called shootings, especially certain of these recent shootings. Now Esau wants to uses witchcraft, uses sorcery, okay, to paint, a so-called black face, or a face that looks like Jake, all right, as the new face of terrorism, okay, or the new face of threat to public safety, the new face of violence, and so on and so forth, okay, because again, Esau is being caught out there, is being found out, all right. And as pretty much the whole world is waking up to this devil. All right. And as the scripture says here in Isaiah 32, all right, Isaiah 32 and verse 5, it says, The vile person shall be no more called liberal, nor the churl said to be bountiful. All right. Let's read that in translations. It says, Isaiah 32:5 in the NLT, in that day, ungodly fools will not be heroes, scoundrels will not be respected. All right. And Esau, Edom is the ungodly fool. Okay. Like the scripture says in the book of Job, the 30th chapter, our forefather Job even described, okay, the wicked, low level, vile nature of the Edomite. All right, he called them, children of fools, base men, right? Just a bunch of low level, okay, psychopathic, all right, demons, okay, literally the children of Satan on the earth, doing the bidding of Satan, right? Destroying the earth, destroying the food, destroying the air, destroying countries, destroying economies, destroying governments, all right? And now, as the whole world is waking up to the fact that Esau, Edom, starting with Amalek, all right, as well as his top banking families, are the root cause of all these problems on the earth. All right, somehow, some way, Esau is going to, use his witchcraft and use his sorcery to somehow, some way, paint Jake as the face of all the world's problems. All right, and especially, the men of the Lord. You see that? Because, mind you, again, as Esau is being caught and found out in these outer days, and it's a shameful spewing all over his glory, mind you, what's at the forefront of Esau being exposed as the wicked and all the earth's problems, by the men of the Lord, the prophets, via the Holy Spirit and power of Yahweh Shemashai, through what? This gospel that we preach, okay, prophecy, singing a new song, okay, going into the scriptures, right? Tying Esau, Edom with the so-called white man tying a so-called white man with Esau, Edom that the Bible speaks of, okay, who will be known as a border of wickedness, pursuant to Malachi 1 verse 4, okay, the wicked that this earth has been given into the hand of, all right, and proclaiming that we're at the end of his world, okay, we're at the end of Esau's world, we're at the end of his rulership, okay, we're at the end, all right, of him going throughout the earth and pushing forth his deception and his witchcraft and his sorcery, okay, because the Lord's getting ready to bring judgment upon him, all right, and of course, before a judge comes down with judgment, a testimony has to go out, okay, testifying against, okay, the other person, all right, the suspect, committing the evils, okay, and that's Esau, Edom, but yet, we know Esau, Edom, okay, the so-called white man, is going to use situations like this and more, okay, to accuse, right, to blame, point the finger, ultimately at Jake, okay, and ultimately the men of the Lord, right, all because he is getting caught out and because he knows that he's ultimately about to get judged and brought down. You see that? And as I said again, let's pull it back up, Isaiah 32 and 5 in the NLT again, it says, in that day ungodly fools will not be heroes, scoundrels will not be respected. Esau, Edom is losing respect all throughout the earth, okay, because right now you have the narrative, in the news media, in various internet sites, where it shows, this guy Nero 47 Trump's approval rating is getting lower and lower every month. But ultimately, overall, Esau, Edom's overall approval rating throughout the planet Earth, not just here in America, Babylon the Great, but all throughout the earth, Esau, Edom's approval rating is at an all-time low. Okay, because what? He's being exposed for being the fool of the earth. Okay, the scoundrel. All right, which when you go into the word scoundrel, it basically means like a thug. Okay, like a troublemaker, basically. All right, and that's what Esau, Edom is. All right, the wicked, the troublemaker. All right, that red horse spoken of in Revelation 6 verse 4, that's said to do what? He was blessed with a sword. Given a great sword to do what? Take away peace from the earth. Great robbing, murdering, lying, deceiving, using pseudoscience, okay, using false propaganda to justify going throughout the earth, waging war, coming down with the sword, right? overthrowing governments, okay, and forwarding the working of Satan throughout the earth. All right. But now we're in the time, all right, in 2026 going forward. Okay, now we're in the time where now Esau, Edom's wickedness and his lies is now all working against him. Okay. It says Isaiah 32 and 5 in the AMP, the fool, the good for nothing, will no longer be called noble, nor the rogue said to be generous. See that? In Esau, Edom is good for nothing. Okay? He doesn't contribute anything positive to the planet Earth whatsoever. Okay? The only so-called positive thing, so to speak, that this devil contributes is that through his wickedness, all right, it teaches us, the hopeful elect of the nation of Israel, a lesson, okay, of who not to be, of what not to be, of how the earth should not be ran, okay, and ultimately, to appreciate the righteousness of Yahweh Shemal Shai through witnessing the wickedness of Esau Edom. You see that? It says again, Isaiah 32 verse 5 in the AMP, the fool, the good for nothing, will no longer be called noble, nor the rogue said to be generous. All right, when you look up the word rogue, okay, it's basically like an English word that means like a thug, all right, a troublemaker, a criminal, basically. I believe, matter of fact, I believe out there in the UK, okay, the pretty much the word for a thug or criminal, whatnot, is a rogue out there in the UK, but yeah, the fool, the good for nothing, all right, will no longer be called noble, all right, and that's how the world no longer looks at Esau Edom, as for years and centuries, right? Esau has been able to portray himself throughout the earth as the saints of the earth, right? The so-called righteous people, even going as far as portraying himself as the Most High himself, and Yahushai, via Christianity and Roman Catholicism, right? Portraying himself as having the highest IQ, okay, the most righteous, most moral, right? Most sophisticated race of people on the earth, right? But inside of days, it's all being found out to be lies, okay? Because all these people do, all right, the Edomites, so-called white man, all he does is go throughout the earth destroying, all right, rape, robbing, and murdering, okay, colonizing, overthrowing governments, okay, overthrowing cultures, destroying cultures, right, destroying the water, destroying the air, okay, and pretty much waging war against life, all right, talking about blocking out the sun and cutting down trees everywhere, removing carbon, right, setting up all these AI data centers, okay, that's doing nothing but destroying the environment, all right, sucking up all the water and electricity that people need to sustain themselves, right? Ain't even going as far as, okay, sticking a micro C up the MOTB inside of all humanity, okay, to literally alter the Lord's creation, okay. That's what this devil's mind is taking him in his outer days. All right, all through the influence and through the working of Satan. But you see, we're in a time where all these things are now working against him. Okay, his lies, his deception, all these psyops and all these FFs that's that he does in the news, all these staged events. Okay, because again, when you go into deeper research of this whole shooting, okay, the whole entire thing looks fishy. The way that people reacted so late after the gunshots allegedly went off. Okay, Trump's reaction on the stage, right? Even when you watch particular videos of the ballroom, the moment that the shots supposedly went off, you still have people in there eating and drinking, conversing, right, laughing, BSing. Okay, this guy Kash Patel, right, the director of the FBI, he was in there, sitting down, chilling, right, just being out of whack. Okay, and the whole entire thing, when you look further into it, was tacky as hell. Yeah, this guy Pete Hegseth, they were showing you have pictures of Pete Hegseth, all right, circulating throughout the internet and Twitter X and whatnot, of him laughing during the situation. Okay, the whole entire thing looked tacky and staged. Okay, and it was just complete failed act by the left hand. Okay, but of course we know, all right, as the elites of Esau Edom have a particular quote on the left hand side: "Never let a good crisis go to waste." So we know that Esau Edom, as tacky as that situation was, we know that Esau Edom is going to be making moves on the left hand side following situations like this. All right, these supposed shootings, these stage assassination attempts on Nero 47's life, and not to mention, certain of these recent shootings. Esau's been putting so-called black and brown faces, all right, that look like Jake, as the face of these shootings or these shooters and whatnot. So we all know what it's going to come boil down to. All right, Esau's getting ready to come down great wrath. Okay, and we know, especially, the main bulk of his great wrath is going to be aimed at Jake. Okay, especially the men of the Lord. This is Revelation 12 and verse 17. It says, "And the dragon," all right, the revival of Rome, America, right, reigned by the biblical Edomites, it says, "was wroth with the woman." Okay, the woman, when you read in this chapter, is symbolic of the nation of Israel, all 12 tribes, all right, so-called Negroes, Latinos, Native Americans. It says, "and went to make war with the remnant of her seed." See that? And mind you, all right, just as I did a lesson the other day, and as well, you've been having various information coming out throughout the internet of Trump, getting ready to bring back firing squads, all right, gas executions, guillotines, electrocutions, right? So these are, just a few ways of how Esau Edom, okay, this dragon here in this chapter, all right, is getting ready to wage war, all right, come down great wrath throughout the earth, and especially come down great wrath upon the woman, all right, Israel, all 12 tribes, and especially against the remnant, the elect. Okay, we know that pursuant to Revelation 20, some of the elect are going to have to be beheaded for this gospel, this testimony, this truth. All right, singing a new song against this beast system and against the image of this beast system and against the mark. Okay, chanting down Babylon the Great, exposing who Esau Edom the wicked is. All right, we know that Esau Edom is going to heavily persecute, all right, the men of the Lord that have this testimony, this gospel. Okay, because mind you, let's not forget Esau Edom, going back to Cain in Genesis the 4th chapter. All right, he's a fugitive and a vagabond. Okay, and what is a fugitive? Basically a criminal. Okay, a criminal who's on a run from the judgment. All right, tied to the crime that he committed. Okay, and for years and centuries and generations, how has Esau Edom been trying to run away from and wiggle himself out of the judgment that's written upon him by lying on his history? Okay, going by these different names and labels, calling himself white, okay, calling himself the chosen people, the small hats, which are Amalekites, right? Calling himself Caucasian, American, French, Spanish, German, Russian, okay, Australian, so on and so forth. Using the pseudoscience to portray himself as having the highest IQ, and so-called Black, Spanish, and Native Americans are have low IQs. They're a bunch of savages, inferiors, incapable of learning, right? And then using that same pseudoscience to justify Planned Parenthood and eugenics, right? All to escape the judgment that's written upon them in the scriptures, right? But as when the time, okay, and of course, a fugitive, when he's on a run, what's one of the some of the main things that he does, okay, to remain on the run from his judgment? Use deception, witchcraft, sorcery, okay. And you see, just like Esau Edom on the left hand side, His spiritual power is, lies, deceptions, falsehood. But we, the hopeful elect, the remnant, all right, Lord will not be of the number of the nation of Israel. All right, part of our spiritual power on this side is truth. Okay, truth, honesty. All right, testifying. Okay, literally speaking on what we're hearing and seeing and witnessing from this wicked Edomite rulership. So therefore, what? When a fugitive gets word of somebody having a testimony against the wickedness of the crime that he committed, right? What is he going to do? He's going to persecute that witness, okay, to not only eliminate that witness but also eliminate his testimony, all right, and cover his tracks, so to speak, right? But it says, Revelation 12 verse 17, and the dragon, all right, the revival of the fourth beast, the revival of ancient Rome, which is America, was wroth with the woman, all right, the nation of Israel, so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, and went to make war with the remnant of her seed, and that's the elect, okay, the remnant, starting with the 144,000. It says, which keep the commandments of Yahweh and have the testimony of Yahweh Shai. See that? The testimony of Yahweh Shai, prophecy, okay, this word, all right, exposing who the wicked is, exposing, Babylon the Great, America, chant down his beast system and against his image and against his mark and against Esau's NWO agenda. All right, the main a heavy portion of Esau's great wrath is going to be aimed toward us, the hopeful elect, the remnant that have this testimony, okay, and as well that keep the commandments of Yahweh Shema Shai to the best of our ability, which the commandments include what? Not bowing the knee, okay, to the image of this beast system or the NWO agenda, and most certainly not taking the charagma. You see that? These are also commandments in the scriptures. Okay, it's beyond just the 613 laws of Moses. No, the commandments also applies to the words of Yahweh Shai, right? The epistles of the Apostle Paul. Okay, don't conform to this beast system or its image, and most certainly don't take the mark. Okay, the micro C of the MOTB. You see that? And so, with the matter of fact, let's go back to Isaiah 32 and 5 again. It says, the vile person shall be no more called liberal, nor the churl said to be bountiful. All right, verse 6, for the vile person will speak villainy, all right, and his heart will work iniquity. See that? And like the scriptures even says in Psalms, I believe 55, his words were smoother than butter, all right, but in his heart, roughly paraphrasing, it was war. War was in his heart. Okay, iniquity is in the heart of Esau, Edom. You see that? And now we're at a point where now, as Esau is caught, is found out, all right, and nobody believes this devil no more. Okay, his approval rating throughout the planet Earth is at an all-time low. Now he's getting ready to speak villainy. Okay, now he's getting ready to speak as a dragon, draconian measures, right? And he says, and to utter error against the Lord Yahweh Shema Shai, to make empty the soul of the hungry, and you will cause the drink of the thirsty to fail. All right, verse 7, the instruments also of the churl, all right, the villain, the scoundrel, the rogue, Esau Edom, are evil. He devised wicked devices to destroy the poor with lying words. All right, and of course, what's the ultimate wicked device that Esau Edom is getting ready to come down with? All right, the micro C of the charagma. Okay, where he's going to ultimately push that as a as a marker. All right, no pun intended, right? As a marker, okay, for him to see, okay, who's really down with his system and who's not. You see that? It says he deviseth wicked devices to destroy the poor with lying words. Okay, labeling people as anti-Sem, labeling people as extremists, as radicals, for having a opinion or a message against right, the NWO agenda, or against the small hats, or against the wickedness of this current Trump administration, and against the wickedness against this whole beast system as well. All right, as a whole, Salakia. And he says again, he devised wicked devices to destroy the poor with lying words, even when the needy speaketh right. See that? So even when people are speaking facts, okay, coming out with receipts, right? especially us, the hopeful elect, the men of the Lord. Okay, even when people are speaking right and coming out with facts to prove how wicked this devil system is, all right, Esau's still gonna come down with great wrath. All right, persecute them, pass laws to unalive them, right? Whether it be through firing squads, electrocutions, gas executions, lethal injections, all right, guillotines, okay, all because, as it said in verse 5, all right, the vile person Esau Edom is no longer being called or looked at as liberal. Okay, nobody looks at him as noble no more, because what? He's being caught, he's being found out, right? He's being exposed and made bare, all right, and pretty much, all of the witchcraft and enchantments and sorcery that has worked for him, all right, for these years, okay, to cover up his iniquity and cover up from being exposed, is no longer working no more. All right, let's get Isaiah 47. Isaiah 47 in verse 12, it says, "Stand now with thine enchantments and with the multitude of thy sorceries, wherein thou hast labored from thy youth. If so be thou shalt be able to profit, if so be thou mayest prevail." All right, let's read that in the translations. Isaiah 47 and 12 in the NLT says, "Now use your magical charms. Use the spells you have worked at all these years. Maybe they will do you some good. Maybe they can make someone afraid of you." See that? And that's another thing. As Esau is being exposed and made bare more and more inside of days, nobody's afraid of him no more. Okay, Iran is no longer afraid of Esau. Okay, the Edomite here in America, as well as the small hats. Okay, North Korea is no longer afraid of Esau. All right, Russia and China, India, certain of these Arab nations are now looking at the Edomite here in America with the side eye. Okay, Turkey is no longer afraid of America, right? And these are all just further signs showing you what? That Edomite supremacy is going down, America is going down. We're at the end of Esau's world. Okay, and all of Esau's witchcraft and his sorcery and his magic that he's used for so long time to help forward his wicked rulership is no longer working. Okay, the witchcraft is wearing off. You see that? So so yeah. So that's pretty much all I want to say in this video. I didn't want to make this too long. So Lord willing, this video is edifying, and until next time, shalom.